Okay, cool. Mhm. So feel free to say hello. You can unmute yourselves or enter where you're from in the chat box. And if there's anything specific that you're interested in, happy spring. I wore green today. I think this is the only item of green clothing that I own. So I dug it out of the closet in celebration of spring. Yay, it's finally here in Nova Scotia. Hello, Heather from Nova Scotia. All right, we will get started and I'll just let more people in as they show up. My name is Lisa Sakos, and as I said, Heather Creamer is here as well. We're from Health Coach Collaborative, where we teach people how to become natural nutrition coaches. Let's see. Oh, Peel Region. Hi, Lara. I worked for Peel Region actually for a long time. Oh, another one from Peel Region. That's amazing. Do you guys know each other? I wonder if you know each other, it's Lara and Sonia. Yeah, I used to do nutrition counseling in Peel. Oh my gosh, more than 12 years ago now. And who knows, maybe I was at your offices. I taught for the school board. I also gave presentations to the Peel Police several times. And funny thing is, I when I was doing presentations for Peel Police, they had me under my married name, Lisa Trepanier, instead of Lisa Sakos. And there was a psychologist also named Lisa Trepanier. So that was very confusing for everybody. Okay, so you do know each other. That's great. Okay, we're still letting a few more people in. Welcome, welcome. I will get started because we don't have a huge amount of time, and some of you are probably on your lunch hour, and I don't want to take up too much of your Friday lunch. But thank you for joining today. My name is Lisa Sakos. I'm a natural nutrition coach. Heather Creamer and I from the Health Coach Collaborative are putting on a series of free workshops over the next couple of months, actually right through until June. This one's a nutrition one in celebration of Nutrition Month. And next month, Heather will present a coaching session because what we teach at the Health Coach Collaborative is obviously we teach you how to become a health coach, specifically a natural nutrition coach. So, the idea behind not only today's seminar, but behind everything we teach in our program is that what we eat and what we drink, anything you put into your mouth, even what you put on your skin, the air you breathe, the environment you live in, everything that you do that goes into or onto your body is absolutely fundamental to your physical and emotional well-being. And this is never so true as it is during perimenopause and menopause. Food powers our energy, and energy tends to drop during this transitional time of life. So we need to choose the foods that will keep us focused, keep us energized, improve our sleep, and all those other symptoms that are part and parcel of this life change. So today we're going to talk about perimenopause and menopause through the lens of diet and nutrition. And I'm going to go over 6 key strategies to help you thrive during this incredible time. So as I said earlier, happy first day of spring. Please keep in mind that this is not medical advice. I'm primarily talking about diet today, not so much on nutritional supplements, nothing on hormones. We don't really have time for that. And that's not really, in my lane anyway. You'll want to speak with your doctor about that. But the emphasis is on diet. But if you are dealing with a medical condition, or if you're on some kind of pharmaceutical drug or working with a healthcare practitioner, before you make any drastic changes to your diet, please make sure that you run it by them first to ensure there aren't any contraindications. Okay, so here we are in this life change, and a lot of women actually don't know where they are on the scale. They don't know if they're in perimenopause, premenopause, menopause, and we're taught to recognize that there are about 24, 25, sometimes some people say 26 common symptoms like hot flashes, irregular periods, but Research over the past couple of years, which really has exploded in this field, shows that there are over 103 symptoms of menopause and perimenopause. Now, on this chart alone, there are about 110 symptoms. So this number continues to climb as more women around the world report symptoms, actively participate in surveys, and more medical journals are now publishing these results. So if you look up menopause symptoms, you'll see the same, approximately 25 recycled over and over again, but there are so many more. So if you look at some of the symptoms that are on this chart alone, things like panic attacks, lightheadedness, restless leg syndrome. I mean, we know about hot flashes and night sweats. We know that the body starts to change shape. Some of us are very well aware of hair loss, but look at the other ones that are there. Brain fog. In fact, many of the symptoms that women complain about, the top symptoms, in fact, are related to cognition, and mental health, like memory problems or memory lapses. As I said, brain fog, mood swings, depression, lack of patience, this weird sense of doom, like the other shoe's going to drop or something terrible is going to happen. So this is very common and also very normal, but there are ways to mitigate these symptoms. And that's what I'm going to be talking about and focusing on today. Before we get into that, though, a lot of us are just not sure whether or not what stage we're in and if our symptoms are related to menopause or perimenopause. And women go to their doctors, and their doctors will not necessarily make that connection. And research over the last couple of years has really shown that very few physicians actually address symptoms of perimenopause or menopause with women. Some women go into menopause very early, and if you look at this chart, these are the stages. Everything before perimenopause is called premenopause. So our estrogen levels are pretty high. And this is the time in our life when we're very easily or more easily able to get pregnant. Our reproduction is as normal as it's going to be. So this is our premenopause, which will happen until usually around 40, early 40s. For some women, it's actually earlier, and symptoms of perimenopause can start into their 30s. I have several clients who started perimenopause in their early 30s, and many who started perimenopause sometime between 35 and 40, but typically it's between 40 to 50. Now, the symptoms that I just showed you, and for those of you who are just joining us, there are well over 100 symptoms of perimenopause and menopause that as women we should be aware of, because you might get a hot flash, you might get a night sweat, and you might relate those to perimenopause. Maybe you're starting to put on a little bit of weight, especially around the midsection. You might relate that to menopause. Maybe your migraines are getting more severe, or headaches, your PMS. Possibly, we might think of those things, but there are a lot of other things that are happening in our late 30s and well into our 40s that are very likely associated with perimenopause. So, with perimenopause, estrogen begins to drop. But as you can see here in the perimenopause section, as estrogen drops, it's not a smooth decline, right? It's up and down and up and down. Your estrogen is bouncing around during this time. And your progesterone, which is the progestation or pregnancy hormone, that's also coming down a little smoothly and a little more steeply. But as estrogen bounces around, so do our symptoms. So some weeks you might feel great, some weeks you don't feel great at all. You might get a great night's sleep tonight, and then tomorrow you just don't sleep at all, or you wake up 25 times. So it can be all over the place. It's quite tumultuous. And what a lot of us don't realize is that perimenopause can last for 10 years. Now, I have had lots of clients who say to me, "Oh, I didn't even know I had perimenopause. I went right into menopause." I'm not so sure, because when we start digging deeper, and I ask about what their life was like over the past decade, they do complain about more stress, more anxiety, more headaches, sleepless nights, not being able to focus. Cognition is one of the areas that's most affected by estrogen changes. And in fact, a study was just published this week explaining exactly how the brain physically and physiologically changes during perimenopause. So it is not your imagination if you find that you just can't focus, that you need more rest, that you're just you don't have patience anymore. You just can't do what you used to be able to do at work or function the way you were able to function. It is not your imagination. This is actually happening to you. Now, don't panic, because the good news is that once you get into menopause, a lot of that will, your brain will recalibrate. So it'll go back to mostly what it was before. There are a few things that don't happen again, that don't come back, but most of your cognitive functioning will come back once you're in menopause. Now, looking at this chart again, typically menopause starts somewhere between the ages of 51 and 53, and it's you're in menopause when you have gone 12 whole months without a period. So 12 whole months, no period. And if you never get a period again, then you're definitely in menopause. Some women actually do get a period once or twice. So you have to count another 12 months after that date, unless there was another reason why you had some bleeding. Now, the term postmenopause actually is not even a real thing, because your symptoms of menopause can actually last for the rest of your life. Now, it's typically the first 5 years once you've gotten into menopause that you have the most severe symptoms, like the hot flashes and night sweats and headaches and things that were on the previous slide. But typically, most of those ease off a little bit. They become much more manageable. But menopause doesn't go away. Once you're in menopause, you are in menopause for life. So, really, that term postmenopause doesn't actually mean anything. Okay. So let's get into the crux of today's session. We don't have too much time, and I want to leave lots of time for Q&A, but I'd love to go over 6 healthy eating principles with you that will help balance your hormones for a smoother transition. So wherever you are on that chart, whether you're in premenopause, perimenopause, or menopause, these 6 healthy eating principles will apply. They are great to implement at any time. In fact, I have a teenage daughter and she's already eating this way. I'm doing my best to make sure that she's checking off all of these boxes every day to ensure that, because adolescents, I mean, you think about it, right? If you've got teenagers at home, especially teenage girls, then you're both going through these crazy hormone fluctuations, right? It's some of us, like both of us, are very similar with our mood swings, with our sleepless nights, or staying up late. So it's kind of hilarious because she's just getting into the premenopause, and I'm coming out of it. It's a riot. Anyways, okay, chat box is open. So if you have any questions, comments, anything you'd like to add, please feel free. Let's have a conversation. I don't want to just talk at you, and I'll leave plenty of time for a Q&A at the end. Now, if there's one thing that I have learned on my personal journey through perimenopause and then into menopause, and also with working with women over the past 27 years, no two women are the same. My menopause journey was unique to me. Yours is unique to you. Uh, I had a great experience. In fact, I've never felt better, to be honest. And I know this is different than what a lot of other women say, but hey, not having a period is amazing. I never have to worry about making sure I have protection with me or wearing light pants in the summer. Like, none of that. It's all gone. It's wonderful. My weight is much more stable than it was before. When I was in perimenopause, like one day I could like gain 10 pounds overnight. And I thought, this is like, what have I done? Did I eat a lot of salt? I didn't even know I was in perimenopause until right near the end. Actually, I had a child late in life. So I went right from breastfeeding into perimenopause. And so I assumed that for the first 3 or 4 years, it was just my hormones adjusting, but it wasn't. It was actually just this drastic change of hormones into perimenopause, and didn't acknowledge that it was it was due to this life change until much later. So there is one thing that we all have in common, even though our bodies are all going to be different. It's that there's a need for more nutrient rich, more whole foods. And we also want to support the body's detoxification cycle. Now, if you can think back to biology or if you're in the health field, then you know that there are three types of estrogen. And the way that your body metabolizes estrogen is also very, very important because your body can make good estrogens and it can make bad estrogens. The bad estrogens are what cause a lot of our symptoms of perimenopause and menopause. They cause the tender breasts and the PMS symptoms if you're still in premenopause or perimenopause. Um, Many of the hormonal, symptoms that we talk about that are associated with our period, for example, or with women's hormones, are associated with this bad form of estrogen. There's also xenoestrogens, which are a synthetic form of estrogen that you get from foods like pesticides, from drinking out of bottled water, from plastic exposure, from the chemicals in nail polish and perfumes. I mean, they're all around us. So we have a bombardment of these fake estrogens all the time that our body has to fight off. And in order to fight it off and also to process the estrogen that your own body makes, we have to make sure that our liver is functioning properly to detoxify the harmful estrogens. And also, after the liver, those metabolites are transported to the colon, the large intestine, which means that for us to eliminate them, the intestine has to be functioning normally. So there are a few elements in these six principles that are targeting these without addressing them head on. All of these six principles are going to address both liver detoxification and detoxification through the large gut. So I'm going to start with balancing blood glucose. Now, I didn't mention that I'm actually writing a book about menopause. I'm co-writing it with Andrea Donsky, who founded Morphus.com, which is a website about menopause. And she has been doing research for the past 5 years with women all over the world. She's received surveys from over 10,000 women worldwide, and her research has been now published in medical journals. And she got picked up by Simon and Schuster to write this book about dietary approaches to menopause. Ask for my help. So we've been writing it together for the past year. It's going to be coming out next year. So not only has this been a huge learning curve for me personally, because I've been going through these hormonal changes, but also it was such an eye opener. I never learned these things. My mom was not around. She passed away when I was young, so I wasn't able to discuss it with her. Also, women don't even talk about this stuff. Now I'm finding that women are having conversations with their friends. So they're sitting around, a coffee shop or a living room, and it's like, wait a minute, that sounds like me. I'm having this symptom, and never associated, as I said earlier, those particular symptoms with menopause. So one of the big issues that we really need to be on top of is that estrogen manages our insulin production. And as estrogen drops, our insulin becomes more unmanageable, which means that we tend to become experience more highs and lows when we eat with our blood sugar. So blood sugar is not managed as well in perimenopause and especially in menopause and beyond as it is earlier in life. Now, when you consider that 1 out of 10 of us already have problems with our blood sugar and some kind of insulin resistance or hyperinsulinemia or type 1 or 2 diabetes or prediabetes or something along those lines, this becomes even more of an issue once we start noticing that our estrogen drops. So your blood glucose is the amount of sugar in your blood at any one time. And it has to be maintained within certain parameters in order to keep us healthy. Now, if you look at this flow chart here, starting with the hamburger or whatever sandwich that is up at the top here and some juice or pop, you eat food, and let's say that food has carbohydrates in it. Your pancreas is going to make insulin. Now, normally your insulin is going to go right into your cells, and your cells are going to be fed with sugar and nutrients so that you have energy and you feel good and your cognition is good because your carbs will feed about 25% of your brain uses about 25% of your calories, pardon me. But when blood sugar is up and down and you become less sensitive to insulin, your cells block the insulin. They don't let it in. So you have all this sugar floating around your blood, but you're still hungry, you're tired, and when you do get a blood test, it looks like your blood sugar is really high. and in some cases it's really low. And when it's high and then it crashes, you feel terrible. You get hangry, you need to eat, and you start to crave sugar and carbs. And the more sugar you eat, the more insulin resistant you become. And overall, this leads to something that we call metabolic syndrome, which can cause visceral adiposity, which is fat storing around the midsection, and that in turn leads to inflammation throughout your entire body. So it could cause arthritis symptoms, it could cause pain, joint pain. All of these happen to be symptoms of perimenopause and menopause as well. There's a lot of overlap. So sometimes it's hard to know what is just caused by perimenopause or menopause. You know what? Nothing is. The symptoms of perimenopause and menopause don't just show up because of your age. They occur because something like this is happening, because your blood sugar is getting dysregulated, for example. So we have to stay on top of it. And it is going to be a battle. It becomes much harder. And it's imperative, because look at all of the things in your body that are influenced by your blood sugar levels. So, um, your pancreas is part of your endocrine system, and your endocrine system makes and regulates most of the hormones that are produced in your body. And these are controlled by your brain primarily, but also by the foods that you eat. They're all connected. So, what affects one hormone is going to affect all the other hormones. So, for example, when your blood sugar is up and down, that's going to cause your cortisol to go up and down. That's a stress hormone. And when blood sugar and cortisol are bouncing around all over the place, it can affect your thyroid hormones. That is what controls your body temperature. Your thyroid is here. That's why I'm grabbing my neck. Your energy levels, your body temperature. So you might feel cold or you might feel hot. Hello, hot flashes and night sweats or chills during the day. It'll affect your pituitary gland in your brain function, your cognition, your memory, your ovaries, and well, for men, they're testicles, but if you're still having PMS, it might make your PMS symptoms a lot worse. But also for women who are still trying to get pregnant right into their late 40s, it's harder to conceive when your blood sugar and your cortisol levels are bouncing around, and your thymus, so your immune system. So all of these body systems are affected by your blood sugar alone. So again, it's absolutely imperative that we start with this, and that's why this is point number one. So how do we balance our blood sugar levels? Okay, so you've heard this a million times, and I know you know it. It's first of all, the best thing to do, the best approach is to get all the white stuff out of your diet. So the white bread, white sugar, especially the added sugar, the juices, soda, pop, um, all of those simple carbs, they're going to cause your blood sugar to spike right away. You can replace them with complex carbohydrates. So that's the brown stuff, like brown rice, whole grains, beans are even better, beans, legumes, lentils, because they have protein in them too. And protein becomes extremely important here as a strategy for balancing blood sugar, because protein helps keep your blood sugar levels steady and it's satiating. So you're full for a longer period of time. So we want to make protein the star of every meal. I'm going to be talking about that next. But what I'd like to make sure you understand here for this point is we want to get away from the habit of eating carbs by themselves. So, like a banana, for example, sure, it fills you up for a few minutes, but that's a carb and it's got a lot of sugar in it. So, banana is going to cause your blood sugar potentially to go pretty high and then come down pretty low. So, let's have some protein with that banana. What does that mean? Some nuts, maybe a little Greek yogurt, balance it out with a little protein so there isn't so much sugar there, something to buffer the sugar. Also, making sure you're getting at least 30 grams of fiber in your diet every day. I'll talk about that in a minute as well. Cinnamon has been shown to literally trick A1C tests. So it can trick your medical test into thinking that your blood sugar levels are normal. That's how impactful cinnamon is to reduce blood sugar. And it's even better if you use Ceylon cinnamon. There's a couple of different types of cinnamon. You can get that online or from health food stores. And how do you use it? Sprinkle a little bit into your coffee or into yogurt or just something that you're eating. And you don't need a lot, just a quarter teaspoon a day will have that effect. And foods that have lots of polyphenols in them, and these are antioxidants. These antioxidants will help make a good bacteria in your gut called Akkermansia muciniphila that is like this is going to explode in research over the next year. I'm super excited about this probiotic. Um, I don't recommend buying it because it's in so many, you can make it from so many different foods right now. But what's super exciting is that it doesn't just support your microbiome, which I'll talk about in a bit, but Akkermansia helps make more GLP-1. Okay, so you've heard of Ozempic, and you probably know a lot of people taking Ozempic right now to control their weight and to manage their blood sugar. Your body makes its own Ozempic, like GLP-1. And one of the ways to get it is with this Akkermansia, which you get from eating polyphenols. So, what are the polyphenols? Fruits, especially berries, pomegranate, grapes, cherries, and apples with the skin. Certain vegetables like red cabbage, spinach, red onions, artichokes, carrots, black beans, lentils, walnuts, almonds, and other legumes. And then there's a lot of beverages. You're going to love this: black tea, green tea, coffee, even kefir, one of my favorite things in the world, dark chocolate, so 70% plus, turmeric, and then cinnamon, oregano, rosemary. Rosemary is actually amazing. It has rosamic acid, which is a great hormone balancer. So for girls going through PMS and at any stage in our hormonal life, rosemary is very effective. And finally, extra virgin olive oil, which can increase Akkermansia levels and also protects your gut lining. Now, if you think about all these foods that I just mentioned, they're a big part of the Mediterranean diet. And I really believe that the Mediterranean diet is so healthy and protective of different health problems because of the polyphenols that you get. There are also some lifestyle measures that you can implement. Exercising, like even just going for a walk, but especially after a meal, helps to regulate blood sugar more than if you exercise at a different time of the day. Also, you want to work with your body's biological rhythm. So try and eat, sleep, and exercise at the same time every day. I know it's easier said than done, but if you can get into that routine, that will help. CGMs or continuous glucose monitors are also very helpful to help you identify what foods are causing your blood sugar to spike. You can order those or you can speak to your doctor about maybe borrowing one for a while. And we don't have time to talk about this today, but if you've been doing any intermittent fasting, that has been shown to effectively manage blood sugar too. I promise I'll go through the rest a lot faster than the first one, but this is a really important point. And personally, and also with clients, I found that this has been such an important key to my health and hormonal balance, and also for energy, for my muscle growth, because muscles start to break down a lot faster once we get into our 40s and with every decade, every subsequent decade, they break down faster and faster. So the amount of exercise that I have to do now compared to what I used to do before is totally different. So, building with protein, not just your muscles, but your energy levels and your hormones as well. 'Cause protein literally is the building blocks of which we are made. When you're premenopausal, you could probably get away with about 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight. But as we get older, we need to up that. So we're looking, now the studies will say anywhere from 1.2 to 1.6. I've even seen 1.7 grams per kilogram of body weight. I've kind of gone down the middle at 1.4. I think that's a more reasonable goal for most people. So if you do the math here, if you're 130 pounds, first you want to get your weight in kilograms. So you do that by dividing by your weight in pounds by 2.2, and then you're going to multiply that value by 1.4, and that's going to give you the approximate number of grams of protein that you're going for every day. So 83. I mean, it sounds like a lot, but it's actually not, especially if you're able to consume 25 to 35 grams of protein at each and every meal, starting with your breakfast. So that means maybe a protein shake or a couple of eggs, Three eggs realistically, maybe a cup of Greek yogurt and add maybe some collagen in there. Collagen has extra protein, maybe some walnuts or, protein powder even. And if you're eating about 25 grams of protein per meal, then it's not that hard to hit your targets. So here's an example. Greek scrambled eggs and some Greek yogurt, that gives you 26 grams right out the gate. Lentil soup with some tuna, some hemp hearts, and a salad, that's 34 grams right there. And a 3 ounce chicken breast, which is going to be about the size of your palm, plus some quinoa, another 30 grams. So really, it's not that hard to get to reach your target. And if you're going to have a snack, make sure there's some protein at each snack as well. Okay, number three is don't fear fats. Now, it's very common to gain about 10 pounds during perimenopause. Yes, it's common and it's normal. And the reason your body's doing this, first of all, your muscles are breaking down faster. So that's one factor. But the other factor is that we actually need more fat during this transition because your hormones are made from fat, the specifically from cholesterol, which is a type of fat. So if you look at this chart here, right at the bottom, you've got cortisol, testosterone, and estrogen, and they originate from fat ultimately. So we also need fat for our brain. It protects our brain and nervous system from deterioration, and it makes sure that what goes into our brain cells and out of our brain cells is healthy and not toxic. And we also need fat to absorb fat soluble nutrients like vitamins A, D, E, and K. So if you're going to take these vitamins, like let's say you're taking vitamin D, um, I would recommend that you take vitamin D with a meal that has a little bit of fat in it to make sure that it's absorbed and not on an empty stomach. So, what are we talking about here? Because fats make all the difference here. Good fats are very different from bad fats, drastically different. The good fats will heal you, the bad fats will cause a lot of damage. And if we had more time to talk about this today, I'd get into the weeds, but we're going to stick to just naming them right now. So naturally derived fats from raw nuts and seeds, from animal foods, if you eat animal foods, extra virgin olive oil, avocado, and then of course omega-3. And I love the omega-3 the most because omega-3 reduces inflammation. And inflammation is something that happens much more readily as we get into our perimenopause and menopausal years. We get joint pains for no reason at all sometimes, right? We tend to have inflammation around our heart or in our arteries, in our brain, in our gums, like gum disease, in the intestines, in the digestive system. So the more omega-3 you can eat, and even if that just means eating fish a couple of times a week or taking a supplement a few times a week, then it'll help reduce the inflammation and it works fast. The fats we want to avoid, on the other hand, processed oils like those big bottles of sunflower oil or safflower oil or mystery oil, corn oil. These are highly processed, highly damaged, and they damage your cells as well. Now, trans fats, are pretty much out of our food supply for the most part now. There might be a few products lingering on the shelves, but trans fats are basically outlawed in Canada and the US. So any new foods that are being sold should be free of trans fats, but it's still a good idea to just keep an eye out for them and just check the nutrition facts panel to make sure that your foods that you're buying don't contain trans fats. Now, people always ask me, what about evening primrose oil? Evening primrose is an omega-6, and if you have too much omega-6 in your diet, that can actually cause inflammation. And especially if you have blood sugar problems already, like if you're pre-diabetic or diabetic or you're taking metformin, your body's going to make more inflammation if you take evening primrose oil. So stick to omega-3 instead. Number four is making friends with fiber. I mentioned earlier 30 grams of fiber a day. Now, this is important for so many different reasons, but one of the main reasons is because fiber, especially the soft soluble fibers, help bind to the bad estrogens and other hormones, as well as toxins that might be in your body, and pull them out of your body through your stool. Soluble fiber also binds to excess cholesterol. So it's one of the most effective ways to balance your cholesterol levels. And, like everything else, because estrogen is dropping, cholesterol tends to go up. So women who had perfectly normal cholesterol their entire lives, once they get into menopause, suddenly their cholesterol is high. It's not always a bad thing, But one intervention is to make sure you get more fiber in your diet to help your body eliminate that extra cholesterol. So, beans, lentils, chickpeas, awesome, awesome sources of fiber, nuts and seeds. Basically, any natural plant food is going to provide you with fiber as long as that fiber has not been stripped away. All right, coasting through here, trucking away. The next one is to support your digestive system. Again, low estrogen causes everything to slow down. So we have less acid being made in our stomach, and your stomach is where protein digestion takes place. So all that protein that I just recommended that you eat, if you're not making stomach acid, you have a hard time digesting that. So you might get acid reflux. You might get really bloated and heavy after you've eaten protein. So we want to make sure that we are supporting our digestive system as much as possible to keep that going smoothly. Your system is just one long tube that starts in your mouth and ends at your anus. And, there's a process that happens in there. It's called gut motility. And that's the process of moving food through your digestive system, which also slows down as we get into menopause. So sometimes we get constipated, or we might end up with IBS or some kind of inflammation in the gut as a result of estrogen dropping and gut motility slowing down. Okay, how do we speed it up? How do we support digestion? Keep our meals simple. That's one way to do it. So going to a buffet where you have like 75 different foods to choose from, and chances are we're going to eat every single one of them, or at least try them all. That's not recommended, at least not very often. That's not a simple meal, right? So keep it simple with like a protein and, maybe a small amount of complex carbohydrates and some vegetables. Eat a few raw foods when you can, because raw foods like fruits and veggies will provide enzymes that help promote digestion. Papaya and pineapple have lots of enzymes in them. And you can even, I don't know if I have it with me, you can even take a digestive enzyme that you can pick up from a health food store or even a pharmacy, or order it online, and take a digestive enzyme before meals. Slow down your eating. Put your fork down between bites, chew carefully. The more work you can do up here, the less work the rest of your system has to do. And you can also try drinking some water with lemon first thing in the morning, or a little bit of apple cider vinegar in a little water, just a shot of apple cider vinegar before you eat a big meal, especially. And that's going to help put some acidity into your stomach to help support digestion, especially in your stomach. Probiotics and prebiotics are essential for your lower digestive tract. So, fermented veggies like kimchi, sauerkraut, you can make your own fermented veggies at home. Just watch a YouTube video. It's not that hard to do. Kefir or Greek yogurt are also great sources if you can tolerate dairy products. Miso, tempeh, buttermilk, sourdough bread, it's the best. Prebiotics feed those healthy microbes. So there's a list there of some prebiotic foods, and we're aiming to include at least one prebiotic or one probiotic food in the diet every single day to nourish and support the microbiome. And watch out for things like sugar. Sugar is not just bad for your blood sugar levels, but it also causes the bad strains that are living in your microbiome to spread faster because it fuels them, it feeds them. So, sugar is not great at any stage of life, but especially at this stage of life. Okay, finally, eat more plants in general. Now, before I get into that, I want to mention that a lot of pesticides can mimic estrogen and can raise your bad estrogen levels and disrupt your hormones. They are known as endocrine disruptors. So, if you're not sure which fruits and veggies you should buy organic and which ones you really don't have to, check out the Environmental Working Group's website, ewg.com, or just look up Dirty Dozen. Dirty Dozen and Clean 15, you're going to see a list, and it's updated every single year, a list of the foods that have the most pesticides on them, and a list of the foods that have the least pesticides applied to them. So choose foods from those from the Clean 15 list, and try and purchase organic for the foods on the Dirty Dozen list. One of the reasons why plant foods become so much more important once we get into menopause is because of the phytoestrogens. So these are plants, and there are over 300 of them that have very mild estrogenic activity. Now, it's not like taking exogenous estrogen. It's not like that at all. They're very mild, but if you eat enough of them, they can have a positive effect, enough of a positive effect that it can help reduce some of your perimenopausal and menopausal symptoms. Now, there's three types: isoflavones, lignans, and comestins. But I just want you to note the foods that have these, and these are the absolute best sources of these phytoestrogens: chickpeas and lentils, ground up flax seeds, which is my number one recommendation for women in this stage of life, is to include at least 1 tablespoon of ground flax in something that they're eating every day. I put it in Greek yogurt or into a smoothie, or like sometimes sprinkle it over a salad. I just try to get it into something that I'm eating every single day, and it makes such a difference. I noticed even when I was premenopausal, if my PMS symptoms were becoming severe, I noticed that just by adding some ground flax seeds on pretty much a daily basis, that I had no breast tenderness, no bloating, no PMS. It really made a difference in my symptoms. So I think we undervalue the importance of ground flax. Flax, the lignans specifically in flax, you're not going to find in flaxseed oil. That's a completely different thing. So when I say flax, I mean literally like ground up flax seeds. You can buy them whole, grind them up yourself, keep them in a container. I just grind up like enough for 5 or 6 days and keep it in a container on the counter. You don't even need to refrigerate it if it's just for a few days. Okay, and then for comestins, it's sprouted mung beans and alfalfa sprouts or alfalfa beans as well. So we're looking to get phytoestrogens in our diet. And really, if you eat a mixed fruit and veggie diet, you're going to get a good range of phytoestrogens. Now, these are not the only sources. There are, like I said, over 300 sources. And as part of that, some top sources of fruits and veggies are actually veggies are part of this cruciferous family. So broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, kale, arugula, bok choy, Brussels sprouts, and even watercress. Now, I highly recommend eating from this family at least 5 days a week. The minimum recommendation is 3 days a week. And you don't have to eat all of them, of course, but if you buy broccoli this week, eat broccoli, say 3 times, and then maybe buy some cauliflower or some arugula, some kale, have a salad with kale or arugula. Add some watercress to your sandwiches or on top of a soup, for example. These are so powerful as far as getting rid of the bad estrogens, supporting estrogen metabolism, and especially detoxification from your liver. So they are more effective than anything else that we can do or consume. You can buy supplements that will do this, but really this is a much better habit to get into because, of course, it's not the only thing that cruciferous vegetables do. They have many, many other benefits. And one factor that we should really be hearing much more about is that cruciferous veggies can reduce the risk of breast cancer. And there are many clinical studies that have shown this. So, research on the microbiome over the past few years has shown that in order to have a super healthy microbiome, a really great goal to reach for is to eat at least 30 different plants a week. Now, I know you're all panicking, like, what, 30 plants a week? That's too much. But you have so many plants to choose from. That includes our herbs and spices. So, a little rosemary here, a little basil here, a little oregano here, some cilantro. That's four already, right? And it also includes your all fruits, all veggies, legumes, nuts and seeds, whole grains. So it actually adds up a lot faster than you think. So, if you sit back and think, okay, what did I eat today? Let's see, I had an omelet and I put in my omelet some onions, some garlic, some spinach. That's three. And then I added a little rosemary on top of that. That's four. And I had it with sprouted bread. That's five. And then for lunch, I had some Greek yogurt with some flax seeds and blueberries. That's seven, right? It adds up. So if you can aim for, 8 or 10 different types of plant ingredients per day, then that 30 different plants a week is a piece of cake. So that is a really nice goal to strive for. And to wrap it up, just to review quickly, like ultra processed foods, these are foods that have come so far away from their natural original source. These are harmful for humans at any stage of life, and especially for women in perimenopause and menopause, because they can exacerbate our symptoms. So most of the time, ultra processed foods are going to have artificial ingredients in them, like additives, food colorings, artificial flavors, lots of preservatives, artificial sweeteners. So just stay away from those as much as you possibly can. Watch out for those processed seed oils. When you're buying a vegetable oil, again, stick to olive oil as much as possible. But if it's in a clear bottle and it's a yellow oil and it just looks so fresh and healthy, keep in mind it is absolutely not. It's under fluorescent lights. It's a totally damaged oil. The fats have broken down to the point where they're now going to be harmful inside your cells. And they've gone through a huge process to get there. And that yellow, beautiful yellow golden color is coming from a food dye. That smell, that nice aroma is coming from artificial flavors. So it smells nice and it tastes nice because it's a rancid oil that they've had to bleach to remove the taste of the rancidity and then add a flavor to. So very bad for us. Stick to extra virgin oils always. Test your iron in perimenopause when our period can be super heavy. We tend to be low in iron, but once we get into menopause, we don't have that blood flow loss, that blood loss every single month anymore. So what happens is the exact opposite. Women who were perpetually low in iron now become high in iron, and that can lead to some dangerous health concerns. So test your iron whenever you go in to see your family doctor, just to make sure that your iron levels are good. And watch out for iron sources, like make sure they're not in your multivitamin. Make sure you're not getting too much iron from foods like red meat. So cut back on the red meat a little bit once you get into menopause. Watch out for soy too. It can be good or bad, but if you're using soy, it should ideally be an organic soy and a fermented form. Otherwise, it can increase your bad estrogen. So can caffeine. Too much caffeine can increase your bad estrogen. A lot of women say they get an instant hot flash when they drink coffee or tea, even. And also at the end of the day, they find they have more night sweats if they're drinking coffee. And alcohol will do the same. It will increase night sweats. When I first went into perimenopause, I remember, or not first, towards the end of my perimenopause, before menopause, I was standing around my counter with a group of my friends, and we're all drinking red wine. And honestly, it was like 10 seconds later, all of us were like, oh, oh, hot flashes all around. We're all the same age. So, you know it, right? You know it. Okay. So, now I'll open the floor to any questions. And before we get into that, actually, I just wanted to thank you for attending today. And if you're interested in signing up for any more free workshops, as I mentioned, the next one is going to be a coaching workshop taught by Heather. Check out healthcoachcollaborative.com, or use this QR code here to scan the QR code and you can sign up. They're all free. We don't sell anything, but we do teach nutrition. So you'll find information about our nutrition program on the website as well. Okay. Are there any questions? Feel free to unmute yourselves or type them in the chat. Okay. Well, if you don't have any questions, then feel free to send us any emails if you do have questions down the road. It's info@healthcoachcertificates.com. Right, Heather? Did I get that right? Health coach.
Yes, health coach certificates. Yes.
Healthcoachcertificates.com. If you have any questions about any of the information that I mentioned today, there's a question from Patrice, or the program or anything else that you want to chat with us about, please feel free to send us an email at any time. I mentioned ground flax. What about whole flaxseed? Okay, thank you, Patrice. Great question. It's nice to see you here. Whole flaxseed does not effectively change hormone levels. It just acts as a source of fiber because the shell is so hard, our teeth are not capable of breaking down that shell to expose the lignins that are inside. So when you eat flax seeds, some of it will get crushed and you may get exposed to a little bit of it, but most of it is just going to pass right through your digestive system and end up in your stool whole. I heard someone say once that we would need to have the teeth of a horse to effectively grind up flaxseed. So use your coffee grinder instead, or a mortar and pestle, or you can even buy it ground. That's just as good. Um, yeah, so thank you very much. I guess I will sign off, and thank you so much to everyone who attended. This presentation was recorded. It will be available as a recorded session and will be sent to you via email, and it'll also be, I think, posted to YouTube probably, right, Heather?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. Thanks, everyone, very much. Have a great afternoon and a great weekend. Take care.